For the first time, the French president has admitted France will miss its target for the budget deficit. On a two-day trip to eastern France, François Hollande said the budget deficit will be well over the target set by the European Union. Most economists knew France's finances were in trouble, but the president had promised that in 2013 France would meet the EU target. France's poor economic performance is one reason why confidence in Hollande has fallen to a 30-year low for a French leader. He's only 10 months into his presidency. Eric Albert is a journalist who works for the French newspaper Le Monde, and Yannick Naud is a fund manager for Glendevan King Asset Management. Both of you, welcome to the programme. Let's start with you, Yannick. Are you disappointed by what he has to say about the prospects for the French economy? I mean, where's this come from?
Well, I mean, it was expected that they will not be able to reach his 3% target.
Not by him.
Yes, it's the first time he can acknowledge it. And what is very interesting is think that he will be able to achieve this 3% next year. I mean, the EU Commission expected this 3.7% deficit this year and expect now 3.9% deficit in 2014 if the policy stay the same. So if the president thinks that he missed this target for this year, but the next year it will be easier, I think it's going to be much more difficult than what he thinks.
Yeah, what are your views on the subject? Do you think that François Hollande really has missed a trick here?
Well, politically it's embarrassing. It's all, it was one of his promises. We will get to 3% in 2013. He will not get that. But we knew it. It was expected. And in a way, he keeps talking the talk. He's saying the trajectory of cutting the deficit is what matters. After that, we were at 4.5% in 2012. It's going to be 3.7 or so in 2013. It's going down. After that, it depends on growth. If growth is not there in Europe, and it is not, then cutting deficit is really, really difficult. So the trajectory is the right one. Whether it's 3.7, 3.8 doesn't really matter too much. So politically it's not very nice, but economically it's not that much of a big news.
Practically, we have to underline that it was not only a promise. I mean, it was a treaty that was signed not too long ago to achieve 3%. And France will join a very selective club of a country that failed to promise failed to deliver on a promise. And in this club so far, there is Spain, Portugal, and Greece. So and practically, they will need to get the approval from the European Commission, and therefore probably Angela Merkel, to be able to push this target for one more year.
But let's come back to what underlines this. There is a debate that is going on with many countries, but France and Germany, if you could argue, at the centre of this, that austerity is not just the only path here, that actually growth has to be allowed to flourish. So you've mentioned there that maybe he's lost political capital, but you could argue he may have gained it.
Well, again, I'm not sure, but it's not headline news that much in France today. I mean, the headline news is on snow and people being stuck in snow. So nobody was really that much focused on it in France. It's an issue with Merkel, it's an issue with the European Commission. It's not good. I mean, France is basically in a recession. It's not good news. Nevertheless, cutting just for the sake of cuts doesn't make sense. I mean, Britain is a good example. You are pretty much at 7% deficit, twice as much as France, after 3 years of austerity. It's going nowhere at the moment. France, should really France go the same way? Should the whole of European Union go the same way? Doesn't really make sense at the moment, cutting just for cut's sake.
Let's come back to this word recession. I mean, technically France isn't quite in recession, is it? But I mean, if it went into recession...
It's on the brink of the third recession.
0.1%, I suppose, in the first
Exactly.
quarter, yeah.
People expect that the next quarter will be up 0.1%, and therefore the previous quarter was minus 0.3%, but technically they should be able to have a recession. I think the point on, I mean, austerity alone will not solve anything. When we see the example of some country that went through structural reform, in Greece, in Portugal, in Spain, we could see that if you make the labor system a bit more flexible, if you reduce the cost, the taxation of labor, and if you open some profession, you have a positive impact. I give you an example. Portugal today in Europe, within the Eurozone, is the country having the highest percentage of export compared to GDP.
So your point is that France is not making enough progress?
No, exactly. My point is, so far François Hollande has been shielding the taxpayer and therefore and try to make a certain part of France paying, and it was not enough for him to stay politically with a high high approval rating.
I think it's a bit harsh on François Hollande in the sense that, yes, he's not going very quick on the reforms, for sure. Yes. Nevertheless, he has cut some tax on companies. He has done quite a few things, and he keeps talking the talks on reducing the deficit. You could argue it could be a bit faster, a bit slower, but
this has always been the criticism in France, and not just in recent years, that it lacks that competitive edge.
Yes, it has, but the idea that Sarkozy, the hope that Sarkozy was bringing to the Anglo-Saxon world a few years ago was he's going to cut very quickly, he's going to bring this competitiveness. It didn't work at all because it doesn't work with French unions, it doesn't work this way. You basically have to go a bit slower, and you have to, to take it step by step. That's what François Hollande is trying to do. I'm not sure he's going to achieve it. It's a hard one, especially in a recession. Nevertheless, I think it's safer.
In fact, I think François Hollande is in a perfect situation to pursue this kind of structural reform because he has no more capital, like political capital, to be lost. Because at 31% approval, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
He has nothing to lose. I don't know how you say that in French, but that's basically what you're saying.
In the next 4 years, he can control all the region, both parliament, the presidency, and therefore he has all the lever to be able to implement those politics.
There we must leave it. Thank you so much to both of you.